In this real short video, we're just going to explain implicit functions. So we're used to our functions being explicit, which means we have our x values kind of on one side, we have our y's on the other, and if we plug in an x, that whole side just tells me what y is equal to. Right? These are explicit functions. We're used to seeing our functions like this: y equals, put an x, get out a y. But sometimes we need an implicit expression, so we can't explicitly say it's y equals. The y and x's are kind of going to be jumbled together. Just notice when you make an implicit expression, because x and y are jumbled together, it's not necessarily a function. Right? It's still important things we can do with them, but it's not going to pass the vertical line test. So here's one example of an implicit expression. All right, we can't solve this equation for y. Right, we can isolate this y, but then this y would still be there. Or we could try to solve for this y, but the other y would still be there. So we really can't write this in a way that would just be like y equals a bunch of x's. All right, so you can see our x's and y's are kind of jumbled together. And you can also see it's not a function because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. But this is just kind of the things you can do with implicit expressions. We're not going to talk about trig in class for a while, but these are just kind of the crazy things that can happen when you associate them trig in an implicit expression. Right, sine of y equals cosine of x. You can see you get this grid pattern, which is pretty interesting. You get these really cool looking graphs with implicit expressions that aren't functions, again, because they don't pass the vertical line test, but they're kind of cool to look at. And once you start doing more stuff with trig and implicit expressions, you can do weirder things. All right, this one's like a polka dot. Just if you plugged in some x's and y's that made this true, it'd be on one of these green circles, ovals. But yeah, just showing kind of the things that can happen with an implicit expression, just knowing it's not a function, but we might still be interested in kind of what's happening in this graph. All right, so that's it. I just want to introduce the idea of implicit expressions before we get to the next video, just so you know there's times when the x and y can be together, but just knowing they're not necessarily a function, but there's still important information we can learn.